Boeing, once the undisputed titan of the skies, is now facing turbulence unlike anything in its century-long history. Known for engineering marvels like the 747 and Dreamliner, the company once dominated the widebody market, capturing 60% in 2019 and expanding to 64% by 2022. But now, that dominance is under threat. A staggering 33,000 workers have walked off the job in a strike that could bring this aviation giant to its knees.
Boeing workers, they are unionized and they are now on strike this morning. More than 33,000 machinists walked off the job just hours ago.
Production lines are frozen, thousands are being laid off, and Airbus is circling overhead, ready to seize control.
There are plants that we are not able to deliver to at this moment.
Now it's time to uncover the true reason behind the strike, one that goes deeper than what you've heard or imagined, and why it could change not only Boeing, but the entire aviation industry forever. To understand why nearly all of Boeing's unionized workforce is willing to down tools, you need to look back, way back. In the 2000s, working for Boeing was something to be proud of. Workers enjoyed steady raises, robust benefits, and the security of knowing their contributions were valued. The company enjoyed rapid growth and record production levels. In 2006, Boeing delivered 398 commercial airplanes, a remarkable 37% increase from the 290 units delivered in 2005. The figure slightly exceeded the company's own forecast of 395 deliveries, showcasing Boeing's ability back then to meet rising demand. But in 2008, everything changed. The global financial crisis hit like a storm, leaving no industry untouched. Thousands of jobs vanished overnight, and companies around the world scrambled to survive. While many began slashing costs and reinventing themselves to bounce back, Boeing chose a different path. Instead of streamlining, consolidating, and investing in its workforce, the aerospace giant doubled down on aggressive expansion and risky cost-cutting measures. Annual raises shrank to just 2 to 3%, barely enough to keep pace with inflation. Employees found themselves in a tough spot, watching their real earnings shrink as everyday expenses, housing, healthcare, and groceries rose steadily around them. This growing sense of disillusionment reached a boiling point in 2014 when Boeing made a decision that would ripple through its workforce. They eliminated the traditional pension plan, replacing it with a 401k. For many, this wasn't just a change in benefits, it was a breach of trust. The pension plan had always been more than just another perk. It represented a promise, a tangible commitment from the company to support its employees long after their working days were over. It offered a stable, predictable source of income in retirement, something workers could rely on after years of service. The shift to the 401k plan felt like a stark departure from that promise. Unlike a pension, which guarantees a fixed income, a 401k is dependent on market performance. It's a lot more volatile and, for those who aren't investment savvy, can be risky. Suddenly, employees found themselves forced to navigate the uncertainties of financial markets with their retirement on the line. For workers who had planned their future around the security of a pension, it was a devastating blow. Overnight, their financial outlook became a lot more uncertain, and many felt abandoned by a company that they had dedicated decades to. The message from Boeing was clear: you're on your own when it comes to retirement. And this shift in priorities wasn't lost on the workers. But what made the workers' anger boil over wasn't just the stagnant wages and dwindling benefits, it was the billions of dollars Boeing was pouring into stock buybacks. While employees were losing ground, seeing no real raises or improvements in working conditions, Boeing was busy funneling money into shareholders' pockets. From 2013 to 2020, the company splurged nearly $43 billion on stock buybacks, pushing its share price to new heights and rewarding investors handsomely. The most shocking move came in 2013, when Boeing authorized a staggering $10 billion buyback, just a few years after a similar $7 billion repurchase in 2007. For workers on the factory floor, this was a bitter pill to swallow. As they faced cutbacks and tightened budgets, they watched as the board of directors prioritized Wall Street over their own well-being. And at the top of this iceberg of discontent was CEO Dave Calhoun. who amidst Boeing's turmoil managed to pocket a whopping $33 million in 2023, mostly through stock awards. Even as safety scandals and financial instability rocked the company, Calhoun was set to walk away with a $24 million payout when he stepped down. Money that, to workers, represented the very essence of corporate greed. They see a company where executives are rewarded lavishly while they themselves are left fighting for fair wages and basic job security. It is the employees who make this company money. This pile of garbage CEO and his worthless board buddies have done nothing but make bad decisions for the last 20 years, one worker said. After years of frustration and feeling undervalued, Boeing offered what seemed like a substantial proposal: a 25% wage increase over 4 years in 2023. On the surface, it appeared to be a generous gesture, a sign that the company was finally recognizing its workers' struggles. But in reality, the situation had already become untenable for many. This proposal, far from alleviating concerns, only deepened the sense of betrayal. Workers felt that this offer was merely a band-aid on a gaping wound, an attempt to paper over years of neglect and undervaluation. Let's explain why. As per the proposal, the actual annual increase in salary will roughly be 9%, spread over 4 years. Not 25% annually, as it may seem. Assume that the average Boeing mechanist currently earns around $75,608 a year. Under the proposed plan, that would raise to $106,350 per year by the end of the 4-year period. Sure, on paper, it looks impressive, but when you do the math, it's not what it seems. That's not 25% per year, but rather 41% spread over 4 years, translating to an average annual increase of around 9%. And even that doesn't capture the full picture. The 25% figure Boeing keeps mentioning? Well, it's a real raise, adjusted for an expected 3% annual inflation rate, so in terms of actual purchasing power, the raise is not as significant as it might appear. And here's where things get even trickier. The new contract might cut overtime and bonuses, which many workers rely on to make ends meet. When you factor that in, the actual pay increase could be as low as 3% per year. For workers in high-cost areas like Seattle, where rent for a one-bedroom apartment can easily top $2,000 a month, that's barely enough to keep their heads above water. The worst part is that back in the day, Boeing mechanists made 4 to 5% more than the local minimum wage. But over time, as costs soared and wages stagnated, that margin shrank. Now they're only making 1.3 to 1.8% above the minimum wage. And that's in Washington state, where the minimum wage has skyrocketed from $7.25 to $22.50 an hour over the last 16 years, which is a 300% increase. For workers who build some of the most advanced aircraft in the world, this feels like a slap in the face. But this strike is about more than just paychecks and benefits. It's a reflection of a deeper rift within the company. A struggle for respect, transparency, and trust. For years, workers have seen decisions made in boardrooms that seem disconnected from the realities of the factory floor. This is a fight for something that can't be measured in dollars, a seat at the table, and a voice that matters. This company does not involve us in their decisions. The poor decisions they continue to make impact our futures, and yet they do not give two shits about our thoughts or opinions. How many times have we tried to speak up when things were wrong, only to be silenced or worse? We were told that we were standing in the way and becoming roadblocks when we told them things were unsafe and not per the quality process. As the strike looms, it's clear the workers aren't backing down. They've seen too many promises come and go, and now they're ready to stand up and ensure their voices are finally heard. Though it will be interesting to see who blinks first, Boeing or its workforce. If this strike succeeds, it could set a powerful precedent for labor movements across the aviation sector, inspiring other workers to demand better pay and working conditions. Additionally, if the strike weakens Boeing's market position, it could accelerate a power shift toward Airbus or other manufacturers, reshaping the competitive landscape in aviation for years to come. But it's obvious this crisis didn't emerge overnight. The cracks started forming long before, with decisions that seemed minor at the time, but slowly eroded trust and stability. Many argue it all began over 27 years ago with a single, fateful choice, a turning point that set Boeing on a collision course with disaster. What was that decision, and how did it all lead to the turmoil we see today? In our next video, we'll peel back the layers of Boeing's troubled history and uncover the moment that many say changed everything. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned to uncover the true story behind Boeing's fall from grace.